Director Park Chan-wook's film Lady Vengeance is the last piece in his famous Vengeance trilogy. As the final piece to the trilogy, Lady Vengeance features similar and different elements of aesthetics utilized by Director Park. In this video essay, we will explore how Director Park portrays a female Avenger's journey of revenge and atonement with the use of color and camera angles. The film opens with the release of Keum-ja from prison after serving 13 years for the kidnapping and murder of a little boy. However, it is soon discovered that Keum-ja was forced to confess to the murder by the real perpetrator, Mr. Baek, a seemingly innocent English teacher at an after-school academy for elementary school children. A ruthless serial kidnapper and murderer, Mr. Baek threatened to kill Keum-ja's newly born daughter if she didn't confess to the crime. Left with no choice but to save her daughter, Keum-ja admits to killing the little boy and is sentenced to 13 years in prison. This presents the motivation for Keum-ja's desire for revenge. Keum-ja in prison is portrayed as a kind and compassionate woman who looks after fellow inmates in need of help, as referenced in the original Korean title of the movie, Kind Miss Keum-ja. However, all her service was part of a bigger plan: the utter destruction of Mr. Baek as revenge for what he had done to her and her daughter. The inmates who receive her help later become integral cogs in Keum-ja's revenge plot. This scene portrays how Keum-ja has become cold-hearted enough to kill this bully in prison with a smiling face. The chilling ease with which Keum-ja kills this woman is heightened by the use of bright colors. Soon after Keum-ja is released from prison, there is a drastic difference in her appearance along with the entire color scheme of the film. Keum-ja and her room are embellished in red, including her dress, makeup, wallpaper, and furniture. This phase in the revenge plot represents the burning desire for vengeance in Keum-ja. This kind of change in appearance is evidently found in other films with female Avengers, where the protagonist completely loses her femininity in preparation for a violent act of vengeance. However, an important element that makes Keum-ja different from other female Avengers, and this film different from other two films in the Vengeance trilogy, is the desire for atonement. In this scene, Director Park contrasts the white color of Keum-ja's dress with the redness of her room as she prays for atonement. He uses the contrast of these colors to introduce Keum-ja's desire to be atoned for her original sin, which was to help Mr. Baek kidnap the child 13 years ago. Her desire for atonement is also evident in her quest to find her daughter, who had been adopted by a family in Australia. Here, Park uses the long shot to establish the distance between Keum-ja and her daughter after all these years.
I think it's your daughter now. I came here only to see her once and for all.
When she goes to Australia to see her daughter, she is no longer dressed in red but in white, signifying that her desire for revenge is clearly separate from her maternal instincts. As Keum-ja gets closer to finally abolishing Mr. Baek, she becomes increasingly conflicted in her desire for revenge and atonement. Here, we see Keum-ja asking her daughter for forgiveness. An extreme close-up is used to maximize the effect of the expressions on both Keum-ja and her daughter's faces. As Keum-ja becomes more conflicted, we see her deviate more and more from violence. By the time she has abducted Mr. Baek and plans his death, Keum-ja no longer actively participates in any violence. Instead, she calls together all the family members of Mr. Baek's victims and lets them brutally kill him. At this point, Keum-ja makes a shift from being the executor of her revenge plan to being a spectator. After they have buried Mr. Baek's slaughtered body, Keum-ja shoots him in the face only as a symbolic gesture of closure since he is already dead. Again, we see an extreme close-up of Keum-ja's conflicted emotions as she celebrates her revenge but seems to mourn for her failure to atone for her sins. In the final scene of the film, we see yet another extreme close-up of Keum-ja's face as she looks up to the white snow symbolizing atonement. The act of vengeance has been completed. Mr. Baek has been punished for his horrid deeds. However, Keum-ja seems to want more. The failure to be atoned for her sins leaves the film with the question of whether Kumja is satisfied with her vengeance. She has completed what she was so compelled to do, and yet we see signs of mixed feelings in Kumja's expression. Finally, Park subtly drains the color of the entire film as Kumja's revenge plot progresses. If you haven't noticed, the film starts with vibrant colors including the color red, which represents Kumja's burning passion for revenge against Mr. Baek. However, by the end of the film, there is a complete lack of color, and this can be associated with the waning desire for revenge as Kumja's desire for atonement takes over. Applying this change in color throughout the entire film allows the audience to follow the change in Kumja's desires and emotions as the film progresses.